Less than 24 hours, the Cape Coral boy accused of making a violent threat is scheduled to go to trial. Welcome back. I'm Belinda Post in for Russ McCaskey.
And I'm Nicole Gabe. And as we have been reporting for the past year, Daniel Marquez sent private texts to a friend. Texts that he says were a joke about a scam involving money and guns, followed by a reference to a school event. Sheriff Carmine Marcino said that he felt the teen and the 10-year-old was really texting a school threat. Daniel was arrested and charged with a second-degree felony. And in a Wink News exclusive, investigative reporter Celine MacArthur sits down with the former director of safety and security for the entire school district of Lee County to get his take on what should and should not have happened to Daniel.
For the first time, we're hearing from someone who worked for the school district when Daniel Marquez was arrested in May of 2022. Daniel was a fifth grader at Patriot Elementary in Cape Coral. Former Director of Safety and Security Rick Parfit says the schools play a critical role in identifying, evaluating, and mitigating threats involving their students. But where were they when Daniel was arrested, perp walked, and locked up?
I spent 40 years in policing. I spent 5 years with the Lee County School District.
Rick Parfit specializes in behavioral threat assessments. He explains why they're critical in protecting schools and addressing potential violence.
We're looking at the behavior of individuals, so we're looking at the circumstances, the content, the context of what was said, especially when we deal with kids.
Kids who increasingly have greater access to smartphones and social media.
Almost every kid has some type of device.
The school district of Lee County has a threat assessment team at each school. It's the law under the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act passed by the Florida legislature in 2018. Parfit helped create the school district's plan that's executed at the school level.
That was my biggest accomplishment. It's a big school district, a lot of schools, and the teams consisted of school officials, including their mental health folks, whether it be school counselors, social workers, psychologists, a school administrator, a principal, or an assistant principal, and also law enforcement. When we developed a program for Lee County schools, those were the folks that were the core individuals on these teams.
He says a thorough team approach cuts down on mistakes that can't be erased.
Well, when it's not done, we sometimes jump to conclusions on cases.
Parfit supervised the threat assessment records management system and saw all the reports when he was with the district from 2018 to 2022. He told me a behavioral threat assessment was not done for Daniel before he was locked up in May of last year. Parfit watched our year-long series and reviewed the available evidence.
I don't see a true threat. We're looking at one person's interpretation.
That person is Lee County Sheriff Carmine Marcino.
Any person would look and say, guns, get ready for water day. That is a threat.
What if he's proven innocent? What if the charges are dropped?
Well, then publicly.
What if the detectives were wrong?
Well, I'll tell you this, they did a thorough investigation.
What if you were wrong?
Well, I'm not going to be wrong going with what I feel.
Sheriff Carmine Marcino told me that in June of 2022. Since then, he's refused to talk to me about Daniel's case.
There has to be more to it, I think.
Parfit also fears the threat assessment program created to safeguard your kids is not being taken as seriously as it should.
I've seen a lot of things come and go, fads and trends and whatnot. This is not one of them. We still don't have that buy-in from the schools, from law enforcement, from the community. We don't, because I think that they're looking at it in different ways. They're hearing different information about what it is and coming to their own opinion as to, that no, this isn't work. This is just a way for a kid to get out of trouble, to minimize their behavior, and it's not.
In a Wink News exclusive, we brought you the sworn testimony of the deputy who arrested Daniel. Tyler Macareth explained why he did not communicate with Daniel's school.
Have you spoken to any officials at Daniel's either current or any other schools that he attends?
No.
Is there a reason why you didn't speak to any officials there?
I didn't think it had bearing on whether he sent the messages that violated statute.
LCSO claimed the statute, written or electronic threats to kill, do bodily injury, or conduct a mass shooting or act of terrorism, didn't require proof that Daniel intended to hurt or scare anyone. The texts alone were enough. State Attorney Amira Fox's office agreed and charged the boy. However, last month's Supreme Court decision on true threats raises the bar for police and prosecutors in these types of cases. Professor Larissa Lidsky from the University of Florida Levin College of Law explains how.
If you're going to make a threat, the person being prosecuted has to consciously disregard a substantial risk that it's going to be misperceived as a threat. You have to have proof of what was going on in his head. And he's a child, and proving what's going on in a 10-year-old's head is always a challenge, as any parent knows.
Parfit tells me he uses our year-long investigation in his behavioral threat assessment training as a cautionary tale of what can go wrong.
Our goal is violence prevention.
To be clear, the sheriff's office does have its own school threat enforcement team. Parfit says that's different than the school district's threat assessment teams. I reached out to the school district and the school board for a response. I've been told they're working on getting me one, but it's a holiday week, so they'll need some time. I'll stay on top of that and let you know what happens in